Hello and welcome back to day 4 of our Pivot to Grow mini-series. For those of you who may just be joining us for the first time, I have to tell you, Matt and I and team chatted even before this, there are hundreds of additional MSPs and individuals registering overnight every night of this series. So we are at almost 700 MSPs who are serious about growth, registered for the event, and more joining in every day. So way to go, sharing it out there and giving some insight to just the amazing content that is being broadcast here for the last few days, and giving some other MSPs opportunities to jump in also. So we are very excited about today. We have another stacked couple of hours. And as you know, yesterday we got a couple questions. How long are the sessions? And this, we've got 2 hours, and there's a speaker for the first hour, and then we're going to do a couple of speakers, Matt and Dan, during the second hour. So definitely stay on. There's lots to cover, and we are so excited that you're here. Couple housekeeping items too. The chat is open, and the team is on chat as well. So ask questions throughout, and we can answer those throughout. Make sure there is a hashtag challenge. So make sure that you are putting out on social media tips and tricks that you're learning, and hashtag PIVOT2GROW. And the individual who does the most sharing out and tagging the most, Marketopia is actually going to award you $1,000 in marketing services credit. So we want to help any way we can. And Matt, I know you had a couple things you wanted to mention too before we kick off.
Yeah, and definitely want to remind everybody that there will be recordings for all the sessions. Those will go out next Wednesday. If you ask during the conversation if we're going to have a recording, we're saying you should donate to charity. I'm half kidding about that, but we are recording these, so everybody, whether you come in a little bit late, you'll have that available to you next week. But we just have a stacked day today, and it really fits the theme of what we've been doing really all week, which is bringing in leaders from sales and marketing space that aren't somebody you always hear from. That's going to be our keynote speaker, who I'll introduce here in a second. And then on the back end, you're going to be stuck with me for another hour, but I'm bringing in lots of my friends. So I've got Dan TOMASZEWSKI, my colleague at ID Agent, and Kaseya, who will be joining us. And we're going to really be talking about how MSPs can utilize and shift and pivot to virtual events. And we're bringing in 2 special guests, 2 MSP owners, to talk about some other things related to that. So it's going to be a great day. I guess anything else, Andrew, before we actually, should we do the poll? Well, let's bring Jamie in. Sure. We'll bring Jamie in. I'll start kind of introducing him as Dana is letting him in, and then we'll pull in the poll. But Jamie Shanks comes to us. He's the CEO of Sales for Life. He's trained.
Hi, everyone. Great to see you.
Hey, Jamie. How's it going?
Not too bad.
Yeah. So actually, Andrew, you want to take that poll, and then I'll
Sure, I'll do a quick poll, and then we will introduce Jamie to everyone. So as you know, everyone, we are doing polls at every session. So this gives you just some visibility into where you stand in the group, and gives you the opportunity to add in your opinion and what's going on in your business. So poll today that we're starting off with is, do you have a regular cadence of training and professional development for your sales team? Quick answer, yes or no. Do you have something that's implemented? Is there a structure around it? Is there some sort of training that you have in place for your internal sales team? A quick yes or no. And while they're answering that, go for it and share about Jamie, Matt.
Yeah, so again, Jamie, CEO of Sales for Life. He's trained over 250,000 sales and marketing professionals, which is a lot of people. He's worked with Microsoft, Thomson Reuters, Oracle, American Airlines, so really big names. He's actually delivered the workshop in 6 continents, so slacking on Antarctica right now, Jamie. Yeah. But we are so excited because and Jamie and I were talking, we really wanted to bring somebody from outside the MSP industry into this to really give us a new voice and a new learning experience, and bring it back into the MSP space. And then we'll have lots of Q&A. And Jamie, when ultimately when you're ready, if you're sharing any screen or anything like that, Andrew and I will drop off, and then when you're ready for us to come back in, we'll pop back in, we'll do some Q&A. And Andrew, it looks like we got our
yes, our Jamie, results. Take a look at the poll. Take a look at what's happened. So this is why you are on the line right now, Jamie. So We need you. So of the respondents, there is 21%. Yes, there is something in place for their sales team for professional development and training, and 79% there's nothing in place. And this is not uncommon. I'm sure you know this, Jamie. This is not surprising, especially to me with the conversations I know Matt and I have on a daily basis. So I think the content that you are about to share, this tees it up very nicely for you, because I think that you have a lot of value that you can add.
Well, that's fantastic because I'm an entrepreneur, I'm an owner of a professional services firm, and I make a bet with our customers around yield per seller. So the investment in the sales professional themselves, rather than the normal sales motion that most of us entrepreneurs, the play that we always run is let's go higher open headcount. Let's throw bodies at the problem. The challenge is that 50% of sellers right now are making quota and 50% aren't. So let's raise the bar of the individual seller, creating greater yield at scale. You know, the concept of synergy, the whole is greater than the sum of its parts. So I will share my screen now.
Awesome.
And the way that I thought I would tackle, and do you mind if I begin?
No, you go right ahead, take it away and we'll jump off for you.
And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to tackle this as if Matt hired me on his sales team. And I'm going to make I have a goal for everyone, that you will be able to create a net new opportunity next week based on the tips, tricks, and tactics that I show. So this is going to be 5 minutes of why you should care and 55 minutes of tips. So kind of buckle up the seatbelt and get ready for the tips. And I will be talking in the first person as if I'm an AE hired at a business, right? Okay, so let's get right into this. Hopefully, and can I get clarity that you can see my screen and see me on video, just so I'm not 5 pages deep and you go, I don't know what you're sharing. So let me just look at the chat box here. We're good to go. Okay, fantastic. Here's the why you should care slide. Pre-COVID, my business, which is the pioneer and the inventor of a topic called social selling or digital selling. Pre-COVID, we were very much like CB Insights wrote a study called Gradually Then Suddenly, which meant that the world was evolving from a sales perspective gradually. COVID kind of changed that to a suddenly. So this chart has evolved, but when we explain this to customers, whether you like it or not, your customer is going to learn with or without you. And so since they're going to learn with or without you, you basically have 2 paths. You have opportunity versus risk. I can't tell you based on what geographic location in the world you're in. I know the buyer that you sell to, because we train 30% of our customers sell into the IT C-suite. So when I look at that, what's happening is your customer is evolving faster than your sales team. The buyer has evolved more in the last 5 years than they probably have in the last 50. So basically, this is the path where you ask yourself, I could either evolve now and be an early adopter. I can begin to learn sales skills that other people haven't, or at which point this isn't going to be called virtual selling, digital selling, social selling. Call it what you want. It's just going to be called sales. And it'll be what's called standard operating procedure. There'll be no more competitive advantage. And I'm just checking the chat box. We're all good. There'll be no more competitive advantage that you have using modern digital selling. So the whole reason that you're on this call is I'm going to show you empirically how we've now trained 400 global customers. On average, a digital seller will create 20% more pipeline in 6 months versus their traditional analog peer. We actually had a telecom customer we split in half for an entire year. 50 sellers were going to become digital sellers, 50 traditional. At the end of the year, at their next sales kickoff, 178% more pipeline was created by the digital sellers than was the analog sellers. And 9 of 10 of the largest deals that they'd done were influenced and attributed by digital sales. And this is a study by CA Technologies. Here's my belief, and it's a theory that is not unique. Myself and Andrew Plunkett, the ex-chief learning officer of CA Technologies, our bet was that learning is the ultimate leading indicator of success. If you learn and apply, you will do better than your previous self, your peers, and your competition. So we measured it. The sellers that applied the very tips I'm going to show you today, this is going to be very tactical, they created 38% more revenue and 55% more pipeline than those counterparts that didn't. And I don't believe you could chalk it all up to social selling. What it really is that you have an opportunity to look at your sales force. It's Jim Collins' Good to Great. You look at the people on the bus and you basically decide, do I have people that are willing to evolve and learn new skills, knowing we're not going to be in customers' offices for the next couple of years. Everyone just became an inside seller. So we need to evolve our sales motion today. And do I have the teammates willing to do that? So let's get right into the tips. These are going to be the best practices from 400 global companies. Now, before you came on the call, you saw in the show notes, like, what is this thing, social selling and digital selling? I thought I'd define it for you. Whether you like it or not, your customer's going on a journey. They're going to learn with or without you. At some point in that journey, halfway along their buying journey, your sales team right now is using triggers, referrals, insights, and competitive intelligence. They do this every day in an analog world. The only difference is I'm going to digitize the left and the right brain part of selling. I'm going to digitize my research and collection of intelligence to make informed decisions. And I'm going to think in a bold and different way to be creative to engage the customer using, and I'm going to show you actual triggers, referrals, insights, competitive intelligence right now. And what the best in class sellers do, you've probably seen key account plans before. The key account plans are basically 20-page documents that nobody reads or executes against. I want you to get used to taking those 4 data points build that information and articulate it so that they can design a sales play. Now, I'm actually going to start showing you sales plays. Now, I just noticed it said Matt, maybe, or the team, just ping me back as to where it kind of pinged out.
Just kind of into the
and
last.
That way I can make sure that we're all good.
Yeah, in the last slide.
Okay, so on the War Room document?
Yep.
Okay, so on this War Room document, just to recap, best practices on key accounts is to be able to take those 4 data points we talked about and be able to distill it into what is my next sales action. So that's what we're going to do right now. Here's what we're going to do. I'm going to pretend I'm an account executive. I happen to live in Toronto, Canada. I am an account executive that was just hired. Matt has employed me and he says, I need you to build me pipeline in the next 90 days. Here's play number 1 that I would run. Here's the mistakes that BDRs, AEs, and channel teams make all the time. You go to ask them to make an account list. And what do? They start building lists of accounts based on number of employees, size of revenue, market share, sexiness of logo, none of which you have a competitive advantage around. I want you to rethink your account selection process using asymmetrical competitive advantage thinking, meaning where do I have a disproportionate amount of opportunity over my competition? This is called the sphere of influence. What I'd like you to do, if you're on this call, grab a sheet of paper and jot down the logo in the center of a sheet of paper of your best customer that you've won in the last 6 to 12 months. What you do is, let's pretend that's the Nike account. Draw a circle around that and then radiate from that circle and ask yourself, who cares about that logo? There are those that are IT leaders, as an example, that up and leave and move into new businesses. Those are called advocates. There are partners and vendors. There are competitors. And then there's the relationships of the people your customer success team deals with every day. Well, who do they know? So let's now make this tactical. So what I have done is built out this world, and don't mind my mouse, it likes to do crazy dances here, but I'm going to first show you that people have their own sphere of influence. So Matt went to a university called Towson University. Matt has his own personal sphere of influence. If I'm Matt, what I start to think about is I use my sphere of influence, and then I'm going to use our corporate sphere of influence. This university in Maryland, if I were to reverse engineer its alumni for chief information security officers, I can see the companies that they're at, and I can even see the people. So what I'm able to lean in on is actually leveraging, and we have sellers that have used the fact that they were born in Puerto Rico. They did a search, executives, Puerto Rico on their LinkedIn profile. You have an icebreaker, just like when we were walking into people's physical offices, looking at the golf clubs in the corner and the book on Ferrari on the coffee table. I'm able to do that in a digital world. I can start a conversation with Russell and Brent and Robert, but I start with a story that represents life in Maryland, life at this university, only that they would understand. Then I bring it to a business conversation. Now, once I understand that I, as an example, have a sphere of influence, I start to apply it at a company level. What I'm going to do now is you hired me at ID Agent and I think to myself, okay, let's start with our own successes. I take our own case studies and I start to reverse engineer them. And what I'm going to do is first learn to do this one time. What I'm doing, and this is important, ignore that I'm using the premium tool LinkedIn. You're asking yourself that question right now. Mindset, skill set, toolkit. 80% of this is mindset, 20% mechanics. Once you understand the strategy, the frameworks and the strategies that you want to run, tools are just an accelerant to execute a plan. So I'm using Navigator because it accelerates my strategy. If I don't have a strategy, this tool doesn't matter. What I've done is taken companies and reverse engineered them to past, not current. So I'm watching people at Hilltop that leave to lead IT departments. And what you end up having are people that actually are previous Hilltop consultants up and they leave and they go to other businesses. What I'm able to start doing is using my own successes to build a spider web of accounts where I have an asymmetrical competitive advantage of communication with David and Jim. And we're going to talk about how I engage. That's the right brain. Right now we're at left brain. Left brain, I have an advantage with Jim and David that competition can't take from me. That's where I start my prospecting. So what I'm going to do is every time I give a tip, I'm going to pause, let people go in the chat box, ask a question, and then I'm going to just keep layering on the ideas for you. So I'm going to give everyone a second. Go to the chat box. Go Tigers. Is that actually what they are? Is there the Tigers, the Townsend Tigers? That's cool. Okay, I did not know that.
That is correct.
As a Canadian, I would not know that. So actually, Matt, you can answer this for me.
Sure.
Jim, David, you've been working with Hilltop. Tell me what you're seeing right now, your first reaction of these are stakeholders at your own customer base that have up and left and joined other businesses. Now, they might not all meet your ideal customer profile, but help the audience see the mindset that might be transforming for you.
Yeah, well, I've never actually, when you were doing this, I was like, holy yes, because I actually never thought about using, and I have Sales Navigator.
Yeah.
I had never really thought about using it this way. So my light bulb was going off. Yeah, because then of course you can reach out. Like I've had this incredible relationship with Hilltop Consultants. Talk about your experience working with that company, and find obviously ways into the company they've moved to. That's actually really cool.
Well, and it starts to scale. So of course, for the MSPs that are on the call, you're a service-based business like me. You've got maybe 20 open projects right now. You've got 100 customers in the last couple of years as recurring projects. Now you start to think of how you scale this. And I'll even show you then how you use this to cross-reference against prospective accounts you want to target or named accounts. But now you start layering onto the next step. You start to then grab all your successes and you start to reverse engineer it. Now, what will naturally happen is the list becomes unwieldy, depends on the size of the people listening to this call, right? We have customers with thousands or tens of thousands of accounts. So what they start to do is start to get very granular around their ideal customer profile, seniority levels, function. We can get to title. Maybe it's the CISO. Maybe it's geography. You only serve America or you only serve California, whatever it is. But what you start to do is I'm starting to scale the fact that people are leaving. And now this is and what we teach our customers to do is think of this like green, yellow, and red flags. John was at Nashville Computer too long ago for him to probably be able to either resonate with the story or affect a story back to his old employer. Whereas David, as we talked about at Hilltop, he just left. Right? And so we go through this information to look for when were they at our customer base during the years that our statements of work were valid in that business. Now, all of a sudden, it starts to make sense that not all of these are created equal. So what I start to do is prioritize accounts based on the data. There will be the really hot ones like, oh my God, I didn't even know David was at that company, to people like, well, he was at Nashville 20 years ago. I don't know that this will be as applicable, but it's not like I'm going to stop trying. I'm going to still use that story. It just won't resonate with him at the same speed. Here's somebody that left Nashville only 4 years ago. Depending on the years that you had that customer, this might make sense. So now we're layering on, and what I'm showing you is there's all these signals, right? And I'm going to help everybody understand. There are signals around workload or usage consumption. So think of if you had a software, you can mine data around usage and be able to see kind of intent. You have content consumption, which is people consuming your podcasts and webinars like this. And again, it builds you a list of companies that are hand raisers. We call that buying intent. On the other side of the fence, you've got relationship signals, you've got time-based signals, which I'm going to show you. You have competitive intelligence signals. You can keep going, right? So I'm just showing you a couple of these signals that we start to pick up. Now what I'm going to do is jump to time-based signals. Human capital migration is the leading indicator to where priorities are going into a company or leaving. Right? Average North American and Western European right now is keeping their job for every 2.5 years. I'm born in 1978. It's expected that my generation is going to have 11 job changes in our lifetime. And I'm at the age now where my friends are directors, vice presidents, CXOs, owners of companies. So we're all stakeholders now, but we're jumping jobs every 2 to 3 years. We treat them like projects. So that is both an opportunity and a risk in your accounts. Opportunity, people coming in that maybe came from relationships or experience around you, great, or coming in with fresh ideas or willing to make change. Leaving, priorities are tied to people. Companies don't make priorities, people do. They leave, all of a sudden that CISO that you loved or that IT security or IT infrastructure person that you were working with, they up and they leave, and you're what's called single-threaded. You're pooched, right? You're in trouble because now that relationship's gone. The same sort of thing, our customers also look at departmental flex as a huge priority to where workload priorities might sit 90 to 180 days from now. What if the IT department doubled? They're going to have challenges, hopefully, that you can serve. What if the IT department got chopped by 70%? Do you think that a non-cost saving value proposition is where the C-level executives want to deploy their capital? Probably not. Company might not be a good fit right now. So how do we start thinking through some of these challenges? I'm going to give you one tip. There's a whole bunch of these that we can keep layering on. I target, Matt hires me. He says, we target the CISO. Great. Okay. Second sales play I'm probably going to run is I'm going to monitor CISOs taking new roles in the geographic territories or verticals that we serve best. And I'm going to do that. And I can even monitor who is brand new to their job anywhere in the world in any company in the last 90 days. And now I can start a conversation before my competitors. Study done by Forrester, 74% of deals are awarded to the seller that's first to provide value and insight. Basically teach somebody something new and you have a greater opportunity of winning. And in fact, I'll show you, this is a campaign that we run. Whenever a chief marketing officer or a chief revenue officer takes a new job, an alert goes off, we get that data, and we start in their first 100 days, we start sharing them videos and best practices right up front so that we begin that teaching motion. Because we're planting a seed in their mind, they may come back to us 6 months, a year later. I had a discovery call an hour ago that was from 2.5 years ago, one of these. But you've planted the seed, the need arises, they come to you when they need it. But this is an excellent play for kind of that long ball. Every CISO, every IT security operator, whatever that perfect buyer is for you, you can monitor them at scale. And in fact, I'm going to show you how you can even think through being more leading indicator than what I just showed you. So I see that there's a question in the chat box. Now, Deborah's asking, are you connecting with them cold? Wait till I show you how I apply my right brain. Right now, what I am doing is I am amassing a list of targeted accounts, but what we teach customers to do is to think about segmenting them based on probability of opportunity. Like the sphere of influence, much higher probability of activation than is this time-based play. But the time-based play is still really valuable. But we're then going to rethink engagement strategies here pretty soon, because first I'm just in data collection mode, then I need to actually engage. I'm going to show you how I engage differently. Now, question, hi Roy, if there's any question, put them in the Q&A area. Okay, fantastic. So if you want to get even more kind of leading indicator opportunities, it's amazing how few companies actually start monitoring who is hiring. So in this instance right now, I'm actually looking at chief information security officers. I can look in any city, any vertical. The filters are endless. All of this information is free and available to you. If you have an application, a solution, a service that is best to know when people are about to take roles, and you can start either helping with the hiring process, shaping conversations, be an alternative to a hire. Imagine you had imagine your service was fractional CISO work. You already know who's about to do this. And so that you can use this information to start to develop yourself lead lists. So I'm going to pause to see if there's any questions. I see, oh, there's a Q&A box. I actually hadn't used that before. Do you recommend using Sales Navigator or better for lead gen tools? Great question. So I'm a believer of crawl, walk, run. The reason that I invest in Navigator is because from a mindset standpoint, I've decided to alter my playbook. From a skill set standpoint, I've developed plays that I know that work. And then I start finding accelerants. We have customers in Germany that use Zing. We have customers in China that use Weibo. And we have customers in the Middle East that use WeChat or WhatsApp. So the reason I'm telling you this is platforms are just a means to execute a play. But if you've gotten from mindset to skill set, Navigator is great because it helps you segment data quickly, more efficiently. And at scale, that really helps you in your execution. Next question is, how many C-suite companies should one person be tracking? Great question. If you were to look at, and depends on, it really does depend on your ASPs, ACVs, like the size of your deals. But on average, we see enterprise to global mid-market sellers have anywhere between 20 to 50 accounts in their basket, unless they're super global enterprise where they're assigned like the Walmart account, and that's just their whole world. But on average, those that are building pipeline typically can handle it at a global enterprise level, unless you have a solution that can be sold to 15 different departments in one company. Let's assume you just sell to the IT C-suite. 20 to 50 is pretty common amongst our global customers. So I hope that that answered your question. Okay, now what I thought I'd do is I shared with you a couple examples of being, and actually I'll share you with this, and I didn't queue this up, so let me pull this up. And Matt, I'm going to use your profile actually. I find it faster to use Navigator, so, oh Matt, you've locked down your social network. That does not help us for our little tip here. So what I'm going to show everybody is a little tip that will help with referral-based selling. So let me very quickly get something queued up for you. Let's actually take.
Yeah, Jamie, so I did that because I didn't want to, I think what you're asking, because my competitors could then pluck all of my contacts, right?
Exactly, exactly. So I'm going to take a CISO, and I'm going to show you a real-time tip. I didn't queue this one up. This is actually a visual map of a real sphere of influence that we build for every customer. So we win a deal. We will win ID Agent one day. And when we do, this is what we do. We draw the customer's logo in the center of a sheet of paper. We circle it, and we radiate from there, who would like to know that story? Well, there are those that are past employees, there are competitors, and there are key stakeholders. Matt, you'd be a key stakeholder as an example. And I want you to meet Tynan Fisher, Chief Operating Officer at New Horizons in the Northeast. If you drop into his social network, he's connected to my buyer, Chief Revenue Officers, Chief Marketing Officers. So when you understand that as a concept, then you start to sit there and say, hold on a second. We've got 20 active customers right now. We talk to these people every day. Remember, IT people are connected to other IT people. How does one customer help me go get the next customer? So I want you to pretend that this is one of your customers, IT leader. This is the exercise your team can go through. Click on connections. You can do this in the free LinkedIn as well. I just find it faster and better kind of UX experience. What you see in Christian's social network are thousands of connections, and I don't really get a sense as to the IT leaders that he knows very well. So where your sellers will spin their wheels is they'll come down here, they'll go to title, and we'll say, show me all the chief information security officers that he knows, and pulls up this list, 19, I don't even know where to start. But I'm gonna show you a little hack. What tools like LinkedIn, specifically this is a navigator part of this tip, is it aggregates social networks to what we call social proximity, which means how do I take Christian's network and really get a sense of the 3 to 5 companies that he knows very well. What it's done is it's taken his entire social network and it's rolled it up in order of operations. Why this is valuable, and as you continue to do this for people, you're going to see usually a disproportionate amount of connections at 3 companies, like 31 connections at one and 17 at another. Why? Previous employer, spouse's employer, their office is next door to yours, and you have drinks every Thursday night. Top customer or vendor. Then what you are able to do is dissect only those companies, reverse engineer for your ideal customer profile, and now you get a clear-cut sense as to, here's my customer and the champion we deal with every day, and he or she knows these 3 companies intimately well. Used to work there, spouse works there, whatever it is. Now I'm getting a roadmap to the accounts that my account can introduce me to. And this spider webbing accelerates referral-based selling dramatically over randomly asking Matt, hey Matt, do you know X, Y, and Z? Yeah, you have no idea. I could get a sense if Matt's social network was open, which most people's are, I can get a sense very quickly who he knows. Okay, now let's actually move into my tip. I think the most important tip that I'm going to deploy, which is you now shifting prospecting from left brain to right brain, and you have to understand what creates opportunity. There are only 3 levers that a seller can control when creating opportunity, when creating engagement. You can control the story that you tell, you can control the mediums at which you deploy that story, and you can control what's known as cadences and sequences. A cadence means the days between your touches. A sequence is the order of operations of which story you tell. I'm going to tell the cost saving story first, and then I'm going to use the case study story second. That's called a sequence. If you understand that, what I want us to focus in on is you're best to deploy stories right now, and you've probably already started to figure out, based on your average sales cycle length, kind of cadences and sequences that work for you. But I want to show you some data. This is an engagement we just finished with. WorkHuman sells to the Chief Human Resources Officers. And what I want you to focus in on is how they're creating opportunities. So this is going to come to the chat. I'm going to go to the chat, and it was Deborah who asked me the question, are you contacting them cold? I'm going to hopefully shake up how you consider prospecting, how you consider engagement. WorkHuman, the challenge was that they have a 70% close rate when they enter at the C-suite level, but it diminishes dramatically on a value proposition scale when they go kind of lower down the totem pole. And as they start to engage people, they wanted to figure out, like, how do we get a hold of the C-suite? And we are crazy bullish about video. all 80% of all internet traffic is video. And I can tell you what sales play on every customer of the 400 customers, 250,000 sellers. I can tell you how they create opportunity. And I know the plays. And the interesting piece is the medium of engagement is video. Half of all opportunities created is using video. So, and to go up the value chain. So what I'm going to do is actually show you what I mean by video. I'm going to show you 2 examples. So I'm going to stop sharing my video here, and I'm going to give you use case number 1. Use case number 1, there's a tool that you can get. It's free. It's called PIVOT2GROW Video. It's a Chrome extension, and we love working with them. You can go to salesforlife.com/video and you can download it for free. Here's how I can use this. Imagine this is touch point number 1 to Deborah's point. Do you touch them cold? No. There is this 4-step kind of conversation framework that we use, which is why you should care, why listen, the value you're going to receive, or the value I'm going to exchange you, the value that I'm giving you right now in social proof, a little bit of data, and then the call to action or the goal. And remember, when you're booking a meeting, you are not selling your solution. What you're selling is an exchange of 30 minutes of time. So I am providing enough value now for you to give up 30 minutes on Tuesday next week. So touch point number 1. Hi, Matt. This is Jamie Shanks at ID Agent. I hope all is well. A couple of weeks ago, you and I were having, or your team and I were having a conversation about best practices around IT security. One of the challenges that I noticed that's happening in your business is X, Y, and Z. Okay, so I'm going to pause for a second. I'm going to stop recording. Use case number 1, and there's like 100 different use cases that we've seen video. Use case number 1 is I'm going to introduce myself using video. Why? And I might have a slide for this, and I hope I did put it in there. No, I didn't. Okay, why video? Competitive advantage number 1, I humanized myself. We're in a virtual world for the next couple of years. People buy from people. So instead of getting an email, which I'm going to hit share, and I am going to embed this, we're a G Suite backend. Microsoft's a global customer of ours. You can embed it into Microsoft Exchange Server emails. Now I want you to picture that Matt is getting this email in video. And from an IT security standpoint, I don't know the wizardry as to how it works, but 30% of our customers sell to your buyer. I can tell you it somehow magically works. I'm humanizing myself. Competitive advantage number 2, synthesis. If I tried to write Matt an email about the complexity of cybersecurity in the banking industry, that's a 5-paragraph essay. Or I take my 15 years of knowledge and I distill it down to a 1-minute soundbite, which is easier to consume. And then number 3 competitive advantage is buying intent. I can track who's opening, what video, when, and I can start segmenting my list of accounts based on engagement. I know who's opening all of this information. So that's use case number 1. Now, Deborah, I'm going to show you another use case. And this is a really important one around the concept of the dead zone. The dead zone is that uncomfortable silence you get when a customer doesn't return your call, or they told you to call back in 2 weeks, it's been 4 weeks or 6 weeks, and you need some value to exchange them. And what you don't want to be doing is calling and saying, so I'm just following up. I mean, that's not very valuable. So I'm going to use that same tool, but I'm going to switch to screen and screen. And I'm going to hit record. Hi, Matt. This is Jamie Shanks at ID Agent. I hope all is well. 2 weeks ago when we were on our call, we were talking about deep web challenges, pitfalls and challenges that have been happening in the banking industry. One of the things that I want to bring to your attention is I want to bring to your attention the importance of where Bitcoin has been affecting currency exchanges around the world and how some companies are starting to hedge against this. What I'd recommend is focus in on, we've got this great article. I'd recommend you click in right here, and this will be able to help you talk through best practices. I'm going to stop sharing and stop. Okay. Now, You can clearly see, team, I really don't know what I'm talking about right now, but the important piece here is I'm starting to change, hopefully, the mindset, the use cases, first touch point, wrapping up the discovery call, submitting a proposal. There is not a single proposal I would ever dare hand to Matt and his team. Why? Matt's only one part of the buying committee. So what's he going to do? He's going to bring it to the marketing leader, the chief financial officer, and the CEO who weren't on the call. So I need to make a video to recap best practices, pitfalls, things to look for in the statement of work, all these things, because I want to use video to help sell the buying committee. You're launching a new customer. You can introduce the team through video. You're introducing a new product, make a video about it. Every communication that you were going to write a big long email that nobody was going to read, consider doing this through video. And you can share it into any medium. Okay, so I'm going to pause that as I see there's a few questions. Q&A question 1, do you only rely on LinkedIn for lead gen? Absolutely not. So it's any medium. Our customer base is global. It's any medium. I'll show you a simple tool right now. If you sell to companies where it's important to understand the tech stack that they have in a way of segmenting accounts that are great fits for you, or competitive intelligence, or anything like this, I can actually use a tool like this to be able to track. Here's ID Agent. I know the tools, the tech stack that they use, and the date that they actually got those tools. And so if I sold a solution that was a competitor to Marketo or HubSpot or any of these particular tools, I could use that as a conversation starter. Digital selling is about acquiring information, left brain thinking, so I can have engaging conversations like I just did here. I hope that answered that question for you. Chat question, Matt, he put in for all attendees how to be able to find the video. And so team, these are some of the, this is a small fraction of tips, tricks, and tactics, but I wanted you to see how you can research, basically select and plan accounts in a bold and different way, and engage and activate accounts in this new virtual world in ways your sales team is just not doing today. So Matt, what I thought we could do now is, why don't we open up the phone lines and allow people to ask questions?
Yeah, absolutely. Dana will bring Andrea back in, and you know, for the viewers out there, I mean, we're also experiencing this for the first time. So I mean, my mind just is just racing. I have so many. You know, you sent me a video when we first connected, and I didn't really put it all together that you're using this tool. So I mean, that's really just an amazing tool, and I can't imagine not using it now moving forward. I have been using the video component to LinkedIn, where you can send LinkedIn messages through first connections and things like that. But really, you know, very early on in your presentation, you talked about the sphere of influence, and it was funny that you brought up my university. Because me and you got connected through somebody in your sphere of influence, and when I reached out to her, it was cold, and in my subject line, I noticed that she went to the University of Virginia, which is where my stepfather went.
The Wahoo was.
Yeah, and so like I put Wahoo in the subject line, and got her attention, I guess, and then me and you ended up getting connected all through that sphere of influence. So it's just really cool how that.
And I want to be able to answer a question that I see popped up on the chat box around video. So the question was, how am I creating video? So just to let everybody know, I'm on a Mac desktop where the camera sits right here. But I'm sitting at my lake house where I have a computer out by the water. I'm making videos. So just to make this real for everybody, I'm going to go to my videos. Here is me making videos this is to Jim. This is me making a video last night to Jim by my lake house with just my laptop. Now the internet's a little granular because I'm at a lake house right now. And so I'm just using the camera tied to a computer. And then from other ways that I'm making video, let me come to my LinkedIn profile here. And I will just look at recent posts. these are, this is me filming with an iPhone.
Mm-hmm.
Because since COVID hit, I've been living at our lake house, and I'm just making videos, and then our marketing team does a little bit of post-production snazz around it. But it's just iPhones and laptops that we're making all this content.
Absolutely. I think that's one of the things, Jamie, that you tagged on a lot of extremely powerful points. One of them just in regard to gathering information in order to have the type of conversation that'll be engaging. And that's the goal. And there's so much now that we live in such a digital age. There's so much information that's freely given that in the beginning of your session, when you said you used to have to look and see, what can I see? Do they have pictures of the kids? Is there a magazine with a Ferrari? What's their favorite sport? You didn't have to look for those things because they give it freely on the internet now. So I love that you mentioned that, because I think that that's really, really powerful. And then two, I think what you're tagging into right now is it's an iPhone. It's that easy. Anyone with the tools and what's available this day and age for free many times can help you in an instant create and get a digital presence. And so I love the examples that you've given. One question I have for you, because I love back to, you mentioned telling stories, right? So making sure you've got the right information to tailor the stories that you bring into your sales process. If you have an example, because I know we all have these, where all of this worked, right? I like to share with our MSPs times, not only here are the tips, here are the tricks, but an example where you use something and then ended up closing a deal and cool things that happened along the way. Do you have one that you love to tell?
Of stories. Okay, so I'm going to actually try to use one of the, okay, so what you see in front of you, what we did is we took all of our customer sales plays, right? There's plays like the sphere of influence and sharing events like this. This creates on average 15 to 20% of all opportunities created by our team are created through inviting people to events like this. Interesting. Okay, actually, I'll tell you this number 5 one. It's a great one.
Okay.
So I was the keynote at General Electric's event in Beijing, and last year, the year before, and afterwards we went out for dinner, and I sat next to the chief marketing officer of a GE division, and at dinner, just shooting up conversation, and I said, can you tell me what is the best salesperson you've ever met in your life? And she said, easily, she was that fast. She said, I met a sales professional when I moved from the States to China. There was a sales professional at Hewlett Packard Enterprise. On the very first touch point, what he had done was he had sent me tickets to an event in Hong Kong that I could go to. It was a marketing event. He didn't ask for anything, he gave. And then when I came back from the event, he followed up on a kind of a feedback survey. And then he had built me a 1-year calendar of all the events in APAC that he thinks that I should go to every year to better my career in the APAC region. She's like, and so this comes to number 5, where I got number 5, which is provide the human touch to help the buyer personally. Remember, other plays are about helping companies, and then you finally get to a point where you're like, oh, you know what, I'm going to help that person because that person will help me in the future. When I started, my first sales job was in commercial real estate, and my mentor was like a 65-year-old guy who had a stack of resumes on his desk. And his name was Cam. I'm like, Cam, what's with all the chief financial officers' resumes on your desk? He's like, you don't understand it. We don't traffic in commercial real estate. I traffic in people. I get CFOs jobs, and who do you think they hired to do their real estate deals? Me.
Right.
And I was like, oh, wow, I never thought of it that way. And so helping people, that's a sales play that I haven't forgotten. I try, when people ask me, can you help me get a job in sales enablement or introduce me to that chief revenue officer, dollars to donuts, a year later, they're a customer because they don't forget.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And so we got a lot of questions. Oh, go ahead. Yeah, a lot of questions. So we'll have to try to rip through them so we can make sure we answer them.
Mm-hmm.
First question was, how important is it to be on camera in these videos? I mean, I don't know the other way of doing it.
Not. So not a single employee in my company is allowed to do any call internally or externally without being on video. And we've been like that for about 4 years.
Mm-hmm.
And up until COVID, most prospective buyers, customers eventually, they get to know us. Actually, I'll tell you a Microsoft story. So we started our first global Microsoft project started at the beginning of 2018. So the deal was being done in 2017. And I was working with their demand response and their inside sales team out of Fargo and out of Redmond. And about 6 months after, now the engagement's going, we fly into Fargo, North Dakota. It's middle of winter, it's pretty cold there. I remember walking into the building and the two stakeholders I've been dealing with came out of the lobby and gave me a giant bear hug. I'd never met these people a day in my life, but for all these months we had been doing this via video. It's like we knew each other. Well, we did know each other, just not physically. Every call is on video, no questions asked.
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah.
And actually, I had this question myself, and Mary asked it anyways, which is there a higher risk for video emails to get spammed out? So what's your experience been on with that?
So that's the wizardry kind of question for Vidyard itself.
Yep.
And you guys are the cybersecurity experts, not me. I just talk for a living. But you know, when I look at who our customers are, and a third of them sell into IT, and they keep getting the, I can't believe how powerful video has been to my sales conversations. Yep. Vidyard and these video tools have clearly figured something out. I don't know what it is.
Got it.
Yeah.
Andrew, do you want to ask? There's a couple other questions I think we got.
Sure, I see a few in here. One about if there is a tactic that you should double down on of any of the ones that you've mentioned thus far. Is there one that you would say, do this tomorrow and do it with full force?
Okay, and the one thing you're going to get, for anybody on the call that gets to know me, I am a crazy transparent. So how about I'm going to pause for a second, just my screen, because I can't share all of this stuff. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen. So I'm going to pause. I haven't been sharing my screen. Am I not sharing my screen?
No, we're seeing your screen.
I see it.
We're still seeing it though.
Okay, so I'm going to stop sharing for a second, and I'm going to pull up some big data for you.
Okay.
Okay. So these are certifications done in the last month. Let me open it up. So to become certified in our program, every seller has to create an opportunity built into a case study, logged in their CRM, approved by their manager. So like our learning translates into action. It's very tactical in a 90-day blitz. So imagine sitting on, just below this cell 280 is 279 sellers' data. Just in the last month, 66% of all of those opportunities were created using the sphere of influence. Now, that's different. When you start looking at the data, there's a lot of events that help. Insight sharing, job changes might be 15% over our global 250,000. But in the last month, reverse engineering your customers and leaning in on those advocates, 66% of all opportunities. Yeah.
I think a couple things you mentioned. One being, so video in general and sphere of influence, those two things put together, boiled down and underneath it is people. That one, you need to see people and engage with a person and get that feel of that contact and engagement with someone. And you can tell a lot from a person and their voice than just their voice themselves.
Yeah, like, are they cool? Would you have a beer with this person or not, right?
One of the things that is so funny also about having to put video, we did the same thing even pre-COVID, that the team needed to be present and be on video. We've got these tools and they're wonderful, and utilize them and develop a relationship in a different way. Now, the thing that does is you also see people have to pay more attention, because they can see if you're paying attention or if you're texting. You might not be able to do as many things as you used to, but you're developing a better relationship. So I think that is.
I have mastered putting my phone beside the camera.
So have I.
So I could check emails while still on video.
While it is going on. I think that piece is awesome. And then the other, video in general, it is so easy to get out there. I think too, you're going to find that those that, back to any new technique, you've got the individuals that are fearful, right? Those are the ones that they lag behind, because those that'll jump into the next thing anyways, they're always going to be in the forefront. Right now, it just so happens to be who's ready to start selling in these ways. And so I think that's awesome.
Great point. So 51% of success of this digital transformation starts at the sales and marketing leadership level.
Absolutely.
The best leaders lead from the front. You can't ask people to get on video if you are fearful to do it yourself. And I hope everybody since COVID has gotten, like my COVID hair, there's a bird growing in here somewhere. Like, just
Actually, no,
yeah, like a little bit, but like this shirt has a stain on it. Like it just people have become much more accepting of this. Recognize that people just want information, and you don't have to look perfect. They're asking, they're there for your mind, not for your makeup or whatever it is, right?
Yes.
So
And I think that piece too, you start to see that all the other pieces are stripped away. So it's easier to tell who has the mind and who doesn't, also because all the other overly produced things are no longer there. It was almost harder to tell a little bit before. Now you're seeing people more real than you ever did before. And it's very refreshing. And so I think that's awesome. And the sphere of influence, I really hope everyone who's on the line took that to heart and truly understanding how knowing people and who they influence and how you get connected and building out, that brand and then that pool and that community is powerful.
Yep. And yeah, and team, and please feel free to use me as a resource. I am here to help anytime, right? So.
Yeah, and so I definitely want to try to get a couple more questions because some of them I think you can answer pretty quick actually, which is Greg asked, do you use a CRM to track your cadence on some of these activities?
Yeah, so for most of my life, I was on Salesforce, and then we were on HubSpot for quite a while, and now we're transitioning to Zoho, but any CRM can be manipulated to track the KPIs, the sales objectives that you are trying to achieve.
I don't think you're using a green screen. That was a question from David. Do you use a green screen?
This is like a physical
like a step and repeat, yeah.
But if you see me on 9 of 10 of their calls, I'm on a dock, like with a boat and a jet skier going by, and people love that from an authentic standpoint, other than the swearing guy on the jet ski. Right?
Yeah.
So,
yeah, Andrew, you've done a couple calls where you've had the water in the background.
Yeah, exactly. Though, Jamie, it's a slippery slope because part of me, I love being out in the fresh air, which is wonderful. And we're on the water in St. Pete. So I love being in the fresh air, and you're on the water at your lake house. But then I feel I talk to individuals who have not been able to leave quarantine. So I'm like, wait a minute, no, it gets tough. But no, it is. I think that the being who you are, and no matter where you are, and being as authentic as you possibly can, and back to one of the things you were saying earlier is about being helpful, but learning about the individual first enough to know how you can help them person to person is awesome. Not even business, right? Because you're selling to individuals. They just happen to be rolled up under a logo. But
that's exactly
you're not selling to a logo. You're selling to a person. So it's different. But no, I love that you were doing your videos by the lake. I think that's great.
And that's and people who sell me, who've done a great job, have leveraged what clearly is important to me back to me. I have had people take photos of the sunset at their place or lake and say, hey, by the way, I'm at the lake, and they use sphere of influence against me, and it works. Meeting, check.
Yeah.
We got another great question. I think I'm pronouncing it Aneri. So this is great because she said with the COVID situation still around, and she's just starting to be active on LinkedIn. What are topics do you think that they should start talking about? Or what are the topics do you think we should talk about using the tactics you shared?
The topics that you, the customer, should be talking about?
I guess they're starting to go on LinkedIn. I mean, I guess this might be a tough.
Yeah. Actually, here's an exercise that we teach sales teams. There are only 3 ways you can create value for a company or people. I can make you money, I can save you money, or I can mitigate your risk. Everything else that you talk about are features and functions and colored bubbles. Everything needs to be tied to a value driver for your buyer. And let's assume your buyer is IT. Now, there are some of you on this call that have a cost savings value proposition, and then some of you have a risk mitigation value proposition, and some can correlate some way of what you do translates to redeployment of capital that can make money. But the story has to align to creation of value. That's otherwise you're making content for content's sake.
Yep.
Definitely.
What is the tool? I think the tool check was it builtwith.com that you used?
Yeah, builtwith. You just go to builtwith.com. There's a paid version of it, but if you have a solution that if you want to know what ties to a company's website and that's important to you from either competitive intelligence or a lead list, use it.
Got it. And what vineyard plan do you recommend?
Well, so We happen to be on enterprise because we went through mindset, skill set. Now we're at toolkit.
Got it.
Yeah.
And Andrew, any other topics you want to cover? Because I also want to give Jamie an opportunity to plug his book because he is an author as well.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
No, I love. Yes,
Sometimes I always forget. You're like, oh yeah, I wrote that thing.
No, we have to give you time. So no, I mean, we could go on for a while, and you've shared just so much good information. We'll make sure that we recap it. And I would just say, everyone, make sure that you are linking up with Jamie and following him. And he's got a lot of just goodness out there sharing on LinkedIn. Matt will make sure that in the notes, if he hasn't already, that his LinkedIn is up there. But go ahead, plug away, Jamie.
There's 2 books. You can go onto Amazon. You can in any modality of learning. I'm an Audibles guy. You can go hard copy, soft copy. There's 2 books. One's called Social Selling Mastery, which was the foundation to all of digital and social selling. And a lot of it is an inbound motion, the creation of a magnet. And then Spear Selling is the opposite. Again, all centered around digital selling, but I'm an account-based seller. I need to target these 50 accounts. How do I do so? And SPEAR is an acronym for select, plan, engage, activate, and either run or replace that account. Basically a reprioritization of accounts.
Got it. And I think we have one question that came in the last second. Repeat of the 3 value propositions again.
I either can make you money, I can save you money, or I can mitigate your risk. And that comes from lawsuits, looking silly, whatever mitigation of risk is.
Definitely. So those 3 things too, Jamie, I boil back to that example you shared about the resumes, which I love, by the way, because no matter what whoever you're selling into, whether you're selling yourself on a new job, whether you're selling yourself into getting a net new client for your managed services practice, you have to sort out through understanding who they are to know how you can solve for one of those 3 things, regardless of your pitch. So I think that going and kind of being a detective for a second, that's what we all have to be at first in the sales process. We have to figure out and be the detective in order to know what we're trying to solve for. So we have loved having you on today. We really appreciate you jumping on with us and sharing all of this goodness.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much for the invite, everybody.
Thanks, Jamie.
Absolutely. We will be in touch. Thank you, Jamie.
Thank you. Take care. Bye.
Bye. So as Jamie jumps off, that was just great information. I mean, I feel each of these days, and I am getting messages. I know you are, Matt, and I know others are, just the amount of just thick and powerful content that's being shared is very cool, and in different flavors, which I think is great. And events like this, like the flavor and the spin is different on just awesome tactics and things that we can put into action tomorrow. So.
Absolutely. Yep. So now we're kind of heading into the second portion of the day. I think we've got Dan Tomaszewski sitting in on the queue, popping in. Yeah. And wait do you see his like ultra HD video quality that he has compared to us. He's got like this really cool camera.
Hello, everybody.
Good to see you.
Nice to see you.
So I know that you're both going to jump into just some awesome examples. I know that we've been teasing it all week. Both Matt and Dan are going to share real life examples of how MSPs are pivoting right now and neat and different examples of what they're doing to grow their business. So I'm going to jump off. I'm going to let you guys dig into it, and then I will see you after.
Sounds good. I'm going to share my screen here. Dan, you able to view that?
I can see it. Yes, looks great.
Excellent. Well, why don't you introduce yourself, since everybody's kind of gotten to know me over the last couple of days here?
Yeah, so my name is Dan Tomaszewski. I am the Vice President of Channel Success and Powered Services at Kaseya. Used to be an MSP, came over to the ID agent world, and now oversee all of the different channel success. So I'm in the trenches day in and day out with MSPs, helping them grow their business and pivoting and learning how to, go through this COVID process together.
Yeah, and so really what we wanted to do here today, and I think it's important, obviously we're sharing examples from partners of ID Agent and things we've been doing with them at events and things like that.
Look at that, Matt. Hang on a second, Matt. Did you see, they're already calling you out. You called me Matt Solomon on the screen.
I didn't, what do you mean?
It says Matt Solomon and Matt Solomon.
Oh my God. All right, there you go. Forgot to change that, but maybe we'll go to the second slide.
Thank you for someone for calling that out. He's trying to take credit for me now too.
Oh man, just reason enough to move to the next slide. But what I really wanted to make the point of is that even though we're showing you examples of ID agent partners, this is about how to utilize a lot of your other vendors out there for virtual events. But really what we're trying to do is give you new ideas of how to really pivot into this virtual environment, whether that's, vendor partnerships, webinars, but we're going to actually go through example after example of how MSPs are utilizing virtual environments. I mean, Dan, kind of the first part, just, the first couple slides that we're showing, I mean, this is just about leveraging partners, right? Not just ID Agent, but other vendor partners. And these are just examples, but, you coming from really that side of the business, can you talk about the importance, especially right now, of leaning in on the partners?
Yeah, I mean, look, in this world today we live in, people are looking to be educating, be educated of what's going on and how they can take advantage of it. A lot of vendors provide marketing material. They provide different content. They provide, hopefully some different tips and tricks for you. And leveraging that into your social media platform, to your newsletters, to your live videos that you may be doing is really important. And what we're showing here on the screen is just some of the ways people have taken advantage of it, and it's paid off for them. Because they're showing that they're bringing in a vendor or a partner, or sometimes it's white labeled as their own, their own tool and solution, and it's really helping them, be able to go out and do things without spending money. You're not having to go and spend money on graphic designers. When you look at the video down in the bottom corner, where I think it's Don't Be a Brian and he's beating his computer, you don't have to go and, recreate that. We've done it for you. You go put your logo on it, use it, put a link. The best part is, and a lot of these are great examples, is they have like a link back to their website. You always want to have a call to action back to your site so then they can go read more about that offering that you're put on your website. So then they're turning into a lead or a prospect for you, on your site.
Yeah, and I think that call to action is super critical. I mean, Dan, I've been posting these kind of 1-minute videos this week about like a lesson learned in PIVOT2GROW, but either in the initial statement or a comment in the underneath the video, I'm putting a link to PIVOT2GROW so that people are actually have a chance to register for that call to action. So this next slide, again, I'll kind of preface. This is to just show some of the creativity of our partners and MSPs in general, realizing these are physical events, and we are definitely going to shift this conversation really completely to virtual. But I think it is important to just recognize the physical event because it is a big part of this space, and there's been a lot of ways, and eventually we are going to have physical events. So it's not that the purpose of this is really to shift to the digital and virtual environments, but it's not to forget that there are physical events that will probably happen at some point.
Well, and Matt, I think something that's really important here on this slide is not only virtual events, whether it's virtual or physical events, it's the creativity, it's the thinking outside of the box, it's putting yourself in a spot that is going to be different. Like that bottom right corner of that slide we were just on was somebody who sat down, we worked with them, they brought their existing client base and they did a crawfish boil, and they had set up a hacker room. They made it fun, they made it inviting, and it's different. Think about it. Everybody's walked into similar seminars. Everybody sat through a lunch and learn. If you make it different, make it creative, which I know we're going to talk about, people are seeing major results, and it's about having fun. Your customers want to let loose. They want to laugh. They want to get out of their element for a little bit. And all of these different scenarios are taking people out of their normal element. And when you do that, you find you're building a relationship with people, and it's opening the doors for those prospects to really get to see you as a different person and allowing you to go into that next level.
Absolutely. And so one of the first things we thought we would talk about really is just, the benefits of virtual events. And I think it's important, there's pros and cons of virtual events, but today's theme is about pivoting to virtual events. So we're going to really hone in on the positives and the pros. So one is they're flexible, right? I mean, Dan, you did tons of golf outings when you were an MSP, but you were sort of at the mercy of the weather, right? I mean, if it rains, you may have to reschedule completely. You don't really have that element. It's kind of taken out of play in most virtual environments, right?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, you're not. It's not relying on the weather. It's The big thing now is trying to find a spot where you're not competing against another virtual event in your same area.
Yeah, obviously cost effective, right? You're not incurring those physical costs that you were having prior to renting out a room, things like that. It's scalable, it's repeatable. You're able to do a lot more of it. Reliable, again, just the fact that you don't have to worry about all these outside things interfering. And then you get great reporting data. So, I mean, everybody uses different tools, and depending on the tool set that you're using, you might get better data from the asset, but you get to understand who's watching, how long they're watching, did they click on a document, depending, again, on the tool that you're utilizing to deliver those messages. Another area we wanted to kind of talk about is just some common mistakes people make. One is the old last second throwing together of an event, a 1-week email promotion. And believe it or not, 42% of people register for webinars more than 8 days in advance. I think that's a common misconception that people only register a day or two in advance or in the last week. I think maybe for physical events that maybe there's more truth to that, but in virtual environment, it's not necessarily true. Not optimizing registration pages. So, making sure that, the registration form, you're not asking too much, right? I mean, Dan, you have you might have 2 seconds to capture somebody is willing to put their data in. If you're asking too much, they may back off right away.
Well, and not only that, you want to make it easy. You want to make it simple. You want to get to the point. Date, time, here's what we're going through, put your information in and make sure it works. You don't need to take them through another story. If they've clicked because they want to register, let them register and then send them, your email afterwards. But you want to make sure that on the optimizing registration page that it works. There's a lot of people, I mean, we've seen over the last couple of weeks and months, people saying, hey, I had this webinar, I was really excited. And then their page, their registration page didn't work, and they couldn't figure out why people weren't registering. It's because they didn't test it and make sure it was going through. So go through the process, go through your page, make sure it's easy, and make sure that all of the communications are working the way you'd want them to.
Yeah, I mean, even as simple as having a calendar, making sure it has a calendar reminder embedded into that. Speaking of, so this is a great one, because leaving your audience out of the conversation, it's a little harder, right? When you're in a virtual environment to engage with the audience, there's really only a couple things. You got chat, and we just saw Jamie was incredible balancing chat, the Q&A. He was doing all of that while he was speaking. The polls. So this is actually a great time for Dana to come in. I think we have a poll for this session as well, where that's, again, you're engaging your audience. You don't want to leave them out of the conversation. So Dana, I don't know if do you have a poll for this? We do. All right. So have you hosted or co-hosted a virtual event since the quarantine began? So pretty easy yes or no on that one.
I think while we're waiting for that, another common mistake is make sure if you have guest speakers, you spell their names right.
Oh yeah. That's a great idea. See, and what I did there, Dan, what you didn't realize, and this is very meta.
We set it up.
I did that purposely, and you see the result, right? So you overcome those mistakes.
That's not.
Okay, so wow, I was actually expecting way higher in the yes category, to be honest, Dan.
What are we at? I didn't.
Okay, so it's 36% yes, 64% no.
Oh wow. Yeah, I mean, I think we're going to get into it here in talking about, I think we're going to be talking about it, but I mean, that's a really interesting statistic because a lot of the world has shifted to these types of events. So that's a great number to hear.
Yep. Treating all leads equally. So, right, you get, after you've done a virtual event, it's your lead list is not all equal. There's again, depending on what you're using, there's different scoring levels. You want to engage with the people who actually attended for the full session, potentially people who ask questions, especially if they ask buying questions. So again, really look at that list afterwards and utilize the ones that are, at least in terms of the highest lead scores first. And then not having an on-demand strategy, right? I mean, we're recording this. We're going to make this potentially on demand afterwards. Another great tool is being able to provide some of these webinars or whatever you're putting together to your sales team. A lot of times this is a great touch point for them to send out to a prospect because maybe they've reached out a few times and they're kind of in that area of space where they're getting tired of the same message, just checking in. Well, now you're actually providing value and you're not asking for anything in return. So that's a great thing for your sales team to have with them.
And I
Yeah,
I think one other thing I'd add to this is some of the comments like, look, a lot of webinars are educational right now, and that's where you should be doing. You should always be educating people. But a common mistake that we see in a lot of different webinars where people are like, wow, I really wish I would have taken, had someone call me or, want to take me up on my service or, learn more about that education. You got to have a call to action. We talk about call to actions, whether it's social media, whether it's, they're in your webinar. It could be as simple as, hey, if you'd like to learn more or like a risk assessment or like to learn more about how you can mobilize your workforce, give us a call today or have like a special link or an email. Just have something to where you're engaging with them to call you so that way that those people that are more serious and looking into your services or wanting to learn more about the education you provided.
Yep. And so now we're going to kind of go through a few different examples, and we'll go through these fairly quickly, of how MSPs have started shifting again to this more virtual environment. So Peter, one of our partners, he was offering free dark web scans, basically, through LinkedIn, and actually caught wind, an editorial company, CRN, caught wind of what he was doing, and then ended up writing an article about him. And I think that becomes a theme as you start to become a subject matter expert. I mean, that's something we're going to start talking about. And Dan, I think I want to set up you really for the next one, because I think this is like the perfect example of bringing in actually multiple subject matter experts. So I'll let you talk about the thing Bob did with you guys.
Yeah, this is pretty cool. We do this a lot. So we work with our partners and we do the webinars for them. We come in as a subject matter expert. And I think there's two different things that really comes into play here. Since there's quite a few of you that say you haven't done an event or like a virtual event, when you bring somebody in to be a guest speaker for you, to be on a webinar, it changes the dynamics with your current customers or prospects. It's not coming across as a sales pitch. It's coming across as an educational, informational type of webinar. While we're educating people, though, it's hitting trigger points. It's hitting things that they're like, wow, we don't have that in place. Wow, we didn't think about that. And a lot of people are thinking about a lot of security or a lot of their network stuff right now because they were all asked to go and work from home pretty quick. And a lot of people either it went really well or it didn't go well at all. But it's also raised the flags of what could we be doing better, what other things are out there. So bringing in a third party, someone that's a subject matter expert to come in. We came in on this one, Will Bishop, Katie from my team. They did the webinar with Bob, and you could see Bob's quote. His phone started blowing up. This is an actual email he sent to Matt saying that his phone started to blow up during the call, and he even got a great testimonial from his JV partner who was on there because he brought in a law firm as well to kind of help sponsor the event and co-host it. Coming together collaboratively, working with other businesses and bringing in special guests to help you, you're going to see a larger hand raise for more information, and you're going to see a lot more quality leads coming through because it's coming across not salesy, but more of that educational and informational.
Yeah, and this is really cool, this next slide, because I came across this morning because I added it last second. And this gets back to the sphere of influence. See what I did then? I brought it back to the first session. This person, this is actually a president of a company that saw Bob's webinar and reshared it to their sphere of influence and said, thanks for the warning. So whatever, they thought it was worthy enough to reshare. And so who knows now how many new prospects just saw this because the president of a company said, you know what, I'm going to reshare this because I think everybody needs to see it. So really cool to see the back end of it too.
Well, and the great part about this is that you're not looking at having to spend a lot of money. This is stuff you can do with spending actually $0. It's getting together, collaborating, putting the presentation deck together, talking about who's going to do what, and then put your registration page out. So, I mean, these are things that you can be doing relatively easy and making it to whereas you're effective in your community. And this is honestly, Matt, one of the things we hear, we talk to over 100 MSPs a week through coaching, but we're hearing MSPs winning business, and we're not talking about little deals, some big deals during the COVID time, and they've won it because of virtual coaching, virtual educational events, and then just the share of the chambers, associations, and like you're showing here on the screen, it's really an effective way.
Yeah, so this wasn't Ed bringing on ID Agent, but he decided to bring in an ethical hacker, and so I just saw that he posted about this. And again, so it's that same concept: bringing in the experts, finding stories that people or subject matter that people are going to find interesting. I mean, Ed's a great partner. Thought this was really creative because I don't know that a lot of people are bringing in an ethical hacker to speak to their audience.
Yeah, no, that's great.
Dan,
No,
you want to? Yep.
Yeah, I mean, Josh does a great job. I mean, he brings in different hometown, like different people, normally nonprofits, different people in his hometown and in his area. He brings in and has conversations with them, has a good dialogue. Sometimes it's not even about tech, sometimes it's a customer, but it's being engaged with your community. It's finding ways to stand out. And I'm telling you, this is people that are pivoting now, is they're getting out there. Normally they were a community business out at chamber events and out at doing things. Now you're bringing it back home and you're doing these things internally. So now you can go and reach out to different businesses in the community, have nice calls or clients and highlight your clients as well. And it's a great way to bring dialogue. And I can tell you that it's very well received, and it's something that people, really like to hear and listen to.
Yeah, Dan, I'll let you share this story because the chambers is like your bread and butter, and this was just such a cool story that we got to hear from a partner.
Yeah, I mean, this one's neat. He presented at his local chamber, was doing a presentation, and then it simply led to him being, on a radio show, a tech talk, where he's now on the local radio show, bringing in advice. People are asking him security questions. He gets to go on and be that subject matter expert. And again, that comes through being that person that people can trust. They see the education. They see you posting those things on social media. They see you as that subject matter expert. Now it's allowing you to go and highlight that. And not only is it just, radio shows. I mean, we've seen some of our partners, and I've seen partners with all different companies taking advantage of like TV stations. I mean, when COVID hit, people were looking for local MSPs to talk about phishing scams, what was going on. Oh, I forgot this was the next slide, but you see these things, and it's really because people pick up on it. And if they know that you're constantly pushing that type of content and material out, it's going to help you in your position, in your place, to making people realize this person knows their stuff. They understand security. Let's go to them. They're our go-to that we want to go and talk to.
Yeah, and so this is, again, just another great example. And you're just talking about free press at that point, which is just phenomenal. He can obviously reuse this, repurpose it in so many different ways, and it just gives credibility, right? He was on the local news station. This is another example, by the way. This was during my great quarantine beard time period. I love how what he did when he worked with us. And again, this gets back to working with any of your vendors, not just ID Agent. Pat didn't want to just do a webinar. He wanted to really splice up different sections of the webinar so that we could do, in this case, this is a 6-minute video that he posted with us talking about a certain topic. This was around credentials on the dark web. I mean, you could see he's already got so much engagement, and then he's already got 836 views in this particular video, and you can do so much with one piece of content. So right, it started off as a webinar. He cut it down into smaller videos to be able to present and send out through social networks. And then you can even transcribe it, Dan, and make several blogs out of one long webinar, right? I mean, you could probably have 10 blogs out of a webinar. So just really thinking creative. And, to Pat's credit, he invested. I mean, he actually brought in a production company to do this. I'm not saying you have to do that. Not everybody has to do that. But he wanted that extra quality in the production side.
No, yeah, that's a great thing. And it's always be thinking about those things. If you're shooting a video, you're taking part in something, get the recording, get that information, because that's really critical.
Yep. And this is just another example. I mean, we showed it earlier of a partner who was featured in a TV interview. This is, I think, out of the Netherlands. They were featured on their local station. So again, it was a 2-minute video. That's just incredible press. So I would encourage everybody to reach out to your local news stations. I mean, especially if you're a partner with ID Agent. And I say that because having a topic around dark web is something that's a sexy topic. and they don't know a lot of people that they can talk to about that. So having that capability is a huge advantage if you're a partner of ID Agent. Dan, I know we love this one. This was we actually heard about this through one of our LinkedIn Live sessions, and one of our partners shared that they're doing, this is really gets into that outside the box kind of concept. I'll let you talk about it.
Yeah, no, like it's getting outside the box. It's thinking of a new way of doing the virtual event. So if you think about it, if you were going to host a seminar, you're going to spend some money. You got a location, sometimes you got food, you got drinks, you got different things. You're looking for vendors, sponsors, and different things like that. What they did here is phenomenal. They did a wine tasting, happy hour wine tasting. So you join the IT company, and they basically, if you registered, they had a bottle of wine that they sent out to their prospects, and it's they're just a great way to engage. And next thing you know, they're outside, they got their things set up, and it's a different way to engage with people. And think about it, when you're competing against every other webinar that's out there, or every other thing that you're trying to do, it challenges you. I mean, if you're trying to get them to come to yours. So what a creative way. Hey, register, we'll have a bottle of wine, let's sit down and we'll have a thing together. A really cool way to engage people and get them to come into your event and to have just a good time. And again, going back to that, get people out of their normal element. And I think that's what I love most about that idea is you're getting someone to have a glass of wine. You're going to have a good conversation. And, maybe it's not about IT at all. It's just getting to know the person. But that speaks value, because if you get to know the person, that's better sometimes than getting to know the business, because they have to like you, they have to trust you, and they have to understand you first before they're going to understand or allow your business to kind of open doors with them.
Yeah, and so Dan, I know we wanted to kind of leave a couple other, we already, I think, went through many creative ways, but there's a couple others that we kind of threw in here. I don't think Lunch and Learn's a brand new idea, but I think one of the things we've seen people do, and I'll let you talk about it, around the gift carding and the lunch component of it.
Yeah, so we've seen a lot of partners, MSPs going out there hosting a Lunch and Learn and say, hey, look, you attend our Lunch and Learn, we're going to give you a $10, $15 gift card to either a pizza, local place, sub shop, whatever, to have lunch on us. It's a different way to get people to come in. And again, it's a way to drive drive an attractive audience to your organization's, event. A pretty neat thing to try. The other part about it is after, doing like after our beer tastings, we just saw like the wine, but support local businesses. So if there's like a brewery or something in your area, work with them and say, hey, look, if people come on, can I buy, this many different gift cards, or can we give out this and have people come in and get a free beer or something on us? Seeing MSPs getting creative, they're pivoting into the way of where you would normally go to an event and have swag and you would do all this wining and dining. You're having to do it virtually, but still giving them something that's creative and fun to be able to take action on and have. And you can get sponsors. You can look and have like JV sponsors and help you do these types of things. So it's not an expense on just you, the business.
Yeah, and the great, Dan, I'll just interrupt. I'll let you talk about the happy hour for clients, but the JV partnership, since you brought that up, I mean, there's really no better opportunity to get in front of prospective clients, with you kind of not having to do all of the outbound activity, right? If you partner with a law firm, they're inviting their clients to hear you talk about a certain subject. So it's just a great opportunity to get in front of a whole new group of prospective clients with a joint venture partnership.
Well, I just think it's cool. Some of these things we're talking about, the lunch and learns, the beer tastings, or whatever it is, you're helping local businesses too. And that's another way that you can impact your community. A lot of people have been hurt by, COVID, and some of these places are just starting to open up, or they're doing carry-out things. So it's another way to also just take part and help out and be a partnership in your community.
And promote that. Don't hide it. You should be putting it out there and stamping it that this is an event to also support the local businesses. It's a great selling point for people to come support it.
Business communities need to work together. They need to collaborate together, and they need to promote each other. And by doing so, you're getting a promotion and showing that the community, you're a staple in that community, and people know who you are, and they respect that. It's not a shameless plug. It's a way to show that you're working, to work with a local business versus taking it somewhere else. So I think one of the coolest things too that I've talked to you is hearing some clients that are doing happy hours for their clients. So they might have 40 or 50 clients and they're like, look, we can't get to them all. But what we're doing is we're bringing up our team, our IT team, whether it's a 1 or 2 man shop or a 15 or 20 man shop. They're bringing their staff in and they're inviting their staff to come in. And if they show up, they're doing like, again, a little $5, $10 thing to go. But it's a way to connect with the clients during the time that normally your techs might be going on site for, or just a way to interact with them and, do either like trivia or they're doing just some fun games or activities. Yep. Just to bring everybody together, loosen up the mind a little bit. I know we just did one with, our fellow coworkers last week, like a trivia, and it was fun because we got to forget about work for a few minutes and just go in and have a good time. But it's a great way for you to engage with your clients during this time in a fun way that they're going to remember that you took the time, the effort to put into place to help them. But now you're also helping them build morale within inside their organization. Just a really neat thing, and not many, the ones that are doing it are hearing tremendous results, and like their QBRs, like the owners are saying, that is amazing what you did for my staff. They all loved it. We appreciate it. We just thank you for going the extra mile. So it's going, it's not unnoticed from the leadership level and the employee level, and I think it just gets a whole nother level of respect for that business and the MSP.
Yeah, and it humanizes you. Jamie talked about that earlier, and we've done scavenger hunts, things like that. So we're going to be bringing in some additional special guests, 1 or 2 more special guests throughout this last kind of final half hour. One slide I'll just say, just our call to action. If you're not a partner and you do want to hear about ID Agent, you can reach us at idagent.com/pivot. If you're already a partner and you want to take advantage of everything what Dan was talking about with partnering with us through Dan's team's poweredservices.kaseya.com, make sure you reach out. So again, those are the 2 ways to reach out. We can provide those links again in the chat. Dana, I'm going to stop. Go ahead, Dana.
I just want to say there's one question in there I want to answer real quick because it comes up a lot, and I just want to make sure that I answer. I don't want to leave this person hanging. Is they ask the question of like, hey, when you show these things on social media, when you do these different things, doesn't it give our competitors what vendors we use that offer the same services like dark web? And not necessarily, no. I mean, you could take everything that we have put together. It doesn't have our name, doesn't have our logo on it. You customize it, you brand it. When we come on webinars and do different things, we have a large team. We come on as advisors sometimes for you. Or you could come on as an employee with you, or however you bring those people in. And I think the relationship you have doesn't matter what your competitors do. If you're doing the right thing with your, the companies that you're with, you're giving them phenomenal QBRs, you're educating them and providing them, value and services, you're never going to have to worry about competition because you're doing the right thing by taking care of your clients from the level of respect and value that you provide.
Excellent. And so we've got a special guest here. We've got Lisa Shore. Hey, Lisa,
hey.
How are you?
That was like magical. I felt like beam me up, Scotty. Love that.
And I already know I'm in trouble because I know I'm breaking one of your rules that you're going to probably talk about here in a little bit.
And which one is that?
We'll see. Well, let's see which ones you go over today. But
Lisa, he's broken most of your rules already. So.
Yeah. But Lisa, I'll let you introduce yourself, and then you could share your screen and kind of take things away.
All right, I think the best thing for me to do is I'm going to start sharing my screen now because I do have a page on myself. So let me do that and that. And Matt, Dan, can you see my screen?
Yes.
Yep. As well? Yep. Great. So I have, I've written and have been delivering a talk called 6 Tips on How to Conduct Professional and Productive Video Conference Calls. And so this is a result. So I want everybody to know. So first of all, thank you so much, Dan, Matt, and everyone in ID Agent for having me. Dana, it's an honor to continue to work with you and to share my knowledge and expertise to make MSPs much stronger and just proud and confident that we can do. So I am Lisa Shore, and I am a certified image consultant. So while many of our peers are Microsoft certified or, you know, have tech training, I have training in image, and which means soft skills, nonverbal behavior, verbal communication. I'm a proud entrepreneur. I have 2 businesses, my MSP, which is Secure Future Tech Solutions, and Shore Success, which is this presentation today. I am an international business coach, a keynote speaker, and most importantly, a very proud ID agent partner. And I've been listening to your presentation, Dan and Matt, about virtual events, and I can't stress how important they are right now to be collaborative, to be creative. And so this presentation is all about really getting granular and thinking about who we are as people and how we are being perceived by others. So I have 6 tips for all of you. And Matt, Dan, interject at any time. And Jamie actually was talking about some of it earlier, how we actually absolutely are in a more relaxed state with virtual. But I want to caution everybody, and I want to encourage everybody to really think about your personal brand and how you want to be perceived by others. So the first tip is you want to invest in the tech that makes you look great. And so that means webcams. You know, Microsoft Logitech make great webcams. I happen to have a really nice MacBook Pro, and I'm using that webcam right now and to do my presentations. And I can't stress that enough. A lot of video is granular, and you want to be very careful, because if you're an IT company and they're expecting you to be top level IT and they can't see you or hear you, that's a problem. So the lighting is also crucial. I happen to have in front of me a ring light to illuminate my face. I also have blinds. This is my living room. I do not have a formal office, so full disclosure. But so I invested in blinds for my windows, because really your best lighting is in front of you, not behind you, because that could easily make you look very dark and wash you out. So be very careful of the lighting around you. And microphones are crucial. Having great sound quality. Matt, Dan, you guys sound awesome. You always have really great headsets. I'm wearing my iPod Pros, which have really nice microphones, but I have, when I create videos, mobile microphones. I've got a microphone that attaches to my iPhone. There's a whole variety. If I'm outside, I even have a wind microphone. So it's really important to try to block off as much of that noise, have noise canceling products. There's plenty out there on the market that can help you sound professional and sound clear. That's the key. We don't want to frustrate our clients and prospects by not being able to hear anything and not being able to hear your message. So tip number 2 is camera placement. So this is a picture of, we use Teams in my office, and one of the things that we initiated when COVID hit, we're a team of 19, we're all working from home now, and so we initiated what we call our daily huddle. And it was an interesting process because everybody had different placements, and this is in the beginning when we were starting out with video, and so really the only one that looks great is the guy in the top corner, which is my husband, Eric. Everybody else has their camera either too close, far away, or you're off center, or wherever you are. So you want to make sure that we're not looking at your nostrils or your head is cut off. And so think about it, if you're going to use a ruler, for example, you want your camera to be about 1.5 to 2 feet away from you, because you want to have some distance, but you want to be close enough that really just your neck up, your chest level up is showing. And then you want to look right at the camera light. So if I'm going to look away, like I'm going to look down right now at Dan and Matt, and my eyes have just lost connection with the audience. But if I'm looking right at the light on your camera, or in my case, on my Mac, it's a green light in the center, then I look like I'm looking at all of you. What an amazing opportunity to have your audience feel like they're connected to you.
Yeah, and
Always,
Lisa, I'm sorry, I was just going to add, it is sometimes a challenge because I'm looking at the camera right now, but if I actually look where you are on my screen, it's going to make me look like I'm looking off to the side. So that
I
just,
know.
just kind of throwing that out because that is a challenge for people.
It's a huge reminder, and for people, it's not easy. And I'm guilty of it. If we're on a big Zoom call and there's 10 of us, well, in Teams, you can now see 9 people. And so when I'm trying to look at my team when they're speaking and I'm forgetting, oh, I really want to look at the camera so they feel like I'm looking at them. So these are things that are reminders for everybody to plant seeds on professionalism and really connecting. Testing your tech first goes without saying. We wouldn't do a deployment without testing our tech first. The same thing when you're running webinars, any kind of virtual events, you want to really have a testing ahead of time to make sure you get all the bugs out and that things flow smoothly. And again, just to reiterate, that backlighting is really important to think about. So what do others see behind you? Crucial. So does your office look like this or like this? So I made an effort. This is my living room, but I had to shift some of my furniture that I felt would be distracting out of the way. I like, Matt, that you have a great background, a great logo background, and that's what people see. And Dan, you have a very nice, clean, very modern office. That's great. But I'm telling you what I've seen. And I've been doing a lot of speaking engagements, webinars, a ton. We have been I feel like I'm on a Zoom something every single day. And these are the things that I'm seeing that I really feel that MSPs, I know that we're more relaxed in this industry. I know that there's a lot to think about, but having a distracting background, remember, our clients are now seeing this and they're creating ideas in their head based on what they're seeing, not necessarily what they're hearing, but it's based on what they're seeing. So be careful with clutter, be careful of what's behind you, and just really have it very clean and professional and non-distracting. You just don't know what other people are thinking and you can't control their thoughts. You can only control their perception. So really think about that. Maybe you want to have a green screen, maybe you want whatever you can do to clean up your background. And by the way, background noise. If you're in an important sales meeting, please walk your pets ahead of time. Tell your children to, go somewhere for a few minutes, get them occupied. I have 2 teenage daughters and they're outside right now. I said, don't come in and out of the house while I'm doing this call. I need a half hour and I'm good. So just setting expectations with family members and your pets, because you just don't know who's going to be tolerant and who won't be.
Yeah, and Lisa, we have a great comment from Ann Morrison. I was on a webinar where a young man was doing it from his bedroom and all I could focus on was his unmade bed.
See, thank you. Thank you for validating that. Yes, you see, and that's a problem because that's what they're going to remember. They remember the last thing that they see. And when you're building in video now, some people are audio learners, some people are visual learners. And so be very mindful of the message you're sending. Now, here's my favorite topic. And I know in the IT world, it is not the favorite topic. So I'm bringing it up anyway. Maybe I'm going to be a little controversial here, but bring it on. So it's so important to really think about how we're presenting ourselves. Now, the cool thing with the video is you don't have to present your entire self. So this is a picture of my husband, Eric, and I actually staged this. However, I have seen many people post pictures of themselves in half a suit and shorts. Be careful is what I have to say, because I have a client, I was on a vendor call and the woman had a lovely sweater on, but then her cat jumped up on the counter and nearly dropped or tipped over a cup of hot tea, and she had plaid pajama pants on. Where do you think my mind went? Here I'm trying to listen to the vendor and really, zone in and hone in on her message. And I lost my train of thought because I was like, oh, she didn't finish getting dressed for me today. She didn't take the time to prepare for me. Is she going to be a great vendor in the future? So really think top to toe what you're wearing, even if it's really nice jeans, but think about taking off the pajama pants and the shorts just while you're on some really important calls, really important ones. Collared shirts and jackets are higher authority. So if that's what you were referring to, Matt, with your t-shirt, you're right.
No, I'm wearing shorts. And Lisa, I'm going to bet you, well, I'm not going to bet you, I'm going to put $100 on the line for charity that Dan is actually wearing shorts as well. If he's not, I'll pay $100 to his charity of choice, but he's...
Stand up, Dan.
You don't have to stand up. I think we know the answer.
He's wearing shorts. You see, so I'm telling you, I know this, but I'm telling you what I am experiencing, and I want all of you to always put your best foot forward and to take the time and show your prospect or your client that you went the extra mile. And that's including top to toe, because you just don't know if you need to jump up for some reason. I have seen it and I know it. So even if you're going to stick to the top, make sure you wear something with a collar. Dan, you have a very nice polo shirt on. So that's really nice and much more higher authority. And iron, gentlemen, please iron your shirts. So I don't know what it is, but, you know, thinking about ironing and, you know, haircuts. I know we're in COVID and everyone's bragging about their COVID cuts, but you can at least groom, put some gel in your hair, shaving beards and trimming, you know, manicuring. For those of us like me who talk with their hands, having nice nails is crucial, all of that. And then, by the way, people take photographs of you. So they're going to take photographs and see, and what are they going to put on social media? You want them to put a nice picture of you on social media. And I do, even though you were talking about with Jamie about not wearing makeup, ladies, I do actually recommend for men and women some chapstick, a little bit of moisturizer, and if you really have oily skin, a little bit of powder, just so you're mitigating some of that shine. I know, like I said, I know I'm being controversial here in the IT world, but it's my mission to make an impact on everybody.
That's all right. You just got like 6 shots fired on that one for me, but that's okay.
So you know what? Now I'm planting seeds with you, Matt. You're going to get better and better every time. You see, there's always room for us.
Exactly.
Now, tip number 5 of my 6, and this is really an important one for connecting with your audience so people can see you. So I've focused on the people seeing you. Now I want to talk a moment about verbal communication. And my most important question to all of you is, what does a leader sound like? So take stock in your organizations and listen to everybody on your team, from the owner, if you're the owner, right down, not even down, but right across to your bench tech, to admins, to your on-site techs, remote support team. What do they sound like? If they sound monotone, that's a problem. If you're on video and you don't sound interested, and I just talked to all of you like this, and you know, you want to think about how you speak, and you want to think about, there's no connection. You're not showing empathy in your voice. You're not showing enthusiasm, confidence, appreciation. So think about how those adjectives sound and add that to your voice. You'll want to speak slower than normal because of processing time, because people are looking at you and it takes a little bit longer for the brain to process what you're saying. You want to raise your volume slightly. You don't want to scream, but you don't want to talk softly, because you want people to hear your message. You want people to hear what you have to say, and enunciating your words and those messages that you're sharing with your clients. When we do virtual events and we're working with vendors, or we're doing trade shows and we're talking about dark web scans, and we ask them, do you want a dark web scan, or is your data safe? Are you sure a hacker can't unlock your data? Let's do a dark web scan now. So I'm asking questions. I'm using curiosity in my voice. I'm hoping to put a little bit of interest in my prospect, but that's all with your voice. Another little etiquette tip is be careful speaking over people. Try to be politely interrupt. It's fine to interrupt. It's really hard in video. It's like you have a one-on-one meeting with everybody. So having that interruption time is tricky, but you want to just try to politely interrupt. And honestly, at the end of the day, be careful and mute yourself. I've heard so many other side conversations or keyboards, people typing on their keyboards, clicking. That's so frustrating to hear, and it's very distracting to the group. So make sure you mute yourself. And finally, tip number 6 is all about nonverbal communication. So you've got the verbal side, but let's talk about the nonverbal side. So posture is key. So if you were delivering an in-person presentation, if you're at a trade show, I saw lots of pictures of my peers doing trade shows, golf events. We do all of those as well, very successfully. And I'm doing another plug for ID Agent, but we love using ID Agent as a hook to get people into our booth. It's like a very natural hook. And so you don't want to slouch. You don't when you're standing there, but the same thing on video. If you're slouching, or you're first of all, you're blocking your airways. So you want to have a nice elongated body. You don't want to be so high that your chin is and your neck is stretched, but you do want to think about your spine and try to sit up as much as possible. And that'll open up your airwaves, but also look like you're paying attention. I'm reiterating again that clothing and grooming matters. People make perceptions of what they see. Watch for your facial expressions. So it's very easy to misconstrue what people are saying if you're, squinting, or if you have a grumpy face or what have you. So when you're on a video, you're on. It's like, even if you're not speaking, you're still on stage. And so you want to show your audience or your peers that you're attentive, you're paying attention, and that you're listening and you're excited about their information, even if you're not. You still want to show it. You still want to look supported. And finally, again, if you need to get off, or if you have to have a side conversation with someone, turn off your video, put on your mute, do what you need to do, and then come back. I've seen so many people make coffee, get up and bring their camera around with them, and I see their entire kitchen while they're making coffee on a Zoom call. Make the coffee ahead of time, sit down, be attentive, or turn your video off. And remember that perception is reality. So, and that's key for all of this. Other people's perception is reality. And I just have a checklist for everybody. If you would like a checklist of, professionalism and etiquette, it includes these tips and others. Go ahead, go to my website and download that checklist and let me know. So any questions, Dan, Matt?
Well, so we are kind of running a little short on time. So I think from a question standpoint, we might have to do it on the kind of the later part of, the last few minutes, where if any questions come in, we'll try to answer some, or we'll send them directly to you, Lisa.
Great.
But we absolutely appreciate this. And again,
Yes.
all of this information will be made available to everybody that's here. So thank
Awesome.
you so much for attending, and great tips. And I'll have to take some of the tips into practice next time.
Call me anytime.
I'm going full suit next time.
Yeah. Thanks
It's
so much.
important.
Oh, sorry, we cut her off there a little bit. And so I think we're going to be bringing in Lori for just a couple minutes here to kind of round things out. We'll give her a second. Dana will be bringing her in. But Dan, I guess we got to step up our game a little bit.
Thanks
Lori,
for calling me out.
Yeah, no problem. Lori, we appreciate you jumping in. And I apologize, we're a little short on time. So I think we'll hone in on maybe two kind of key areas that we had, have discussed in the past, which is one, especially in this virtual environment, branding yourself is now so important. And I know that's something you've been keying in on the last couple of years as a CEO of an MSP. And maybe if you could just talk to the audience about that, that journey. I think you're on mute there.
Can you hear me now?
Yes. Yep.
Okay. Well, thank you again for having me on. And in terms of the personal branding, I really feel that any time you do something as an individual, your business, you are touching people throughout all of your social media, whether you're posting something personally or posting something for your business. So everything you do, it can potentially reach a potential client. So for me, having a consistent look and feel was really important. So I worked with a branding expert to help me come up with a look and feel. So every time you see me on any of my social media sites, you know you're communicating with me. Well, one, I have such an unusual name, you usually know you're communicating with me, but I always have the same look and feel. So even if you're just looking at a small picture, you can tell that that's who I am.
Absolutely. And, you know, another area that you've really made a name for yourself, and this has also, you know, been a part of the branding, is your community, ITO Compass. It's also, it's over here, a sponsor of this event. From that perspective, I guess, you know, it's been a lot of the community coming together, and you've been hosting, I don't know if they're daily or every couple of days, but you've been hosting these kind of brainstorming sessions. Could you just tell everybody a little bit about that and what you've been hearing in those conversations?
Yes, for sure. Well, one thing that I like to do just personally is I like to connect people and resources together. And so for me, being able to collaborate and share together is really important. And I've partnered with Ken Patterson, who I know in the industry, and twice a week we have a session where people just come together and it's an open talk, and we talk about what's going on in the stages of what we're going through at this moment in time. And so we're just sharing different ideas. If I'm experiencing something here that's working, I want to share that and, you know, let people know what I'm doing, or I'm hearing what someone else is doing. And we call it research. Well, we call it R&D. It's not research and development. It's called rip off and duplicate. And it's collaborating with one another and using each other's ideas and resources so that we all can grow and get through this phase.
Yeah, Dan, I mean, I know you tie a lot into that community feel in kind of what Lori does as well.
Yeah, it's really cool. It's really fun. I mean, watching Lori's group and a lot of these communities, just the interaction amongst the MSPs. There's so much we can do to learn from each other right now. And, you know, that's the neat thing about this industry. There's not many industries you see everybody getting together, sharing ideas, sharing how to, oh, I need help, people offering up manpower, techs, and different things. And I think that's really the cool part, is when you build a community, you're in this channel, is that we're all in it together. We're all wanting to help each other, even if we're competitors. And it's the same thing in the vendor space. We're all, you know, we could be competitors, but we all want to work together for the common good and to see everybody succeed.
Definitely. I think too, Lori, one of the things that, and it's good to see you. Hello.
Hello.
Thank you for joining us. I mean, Dan, you just touched on it, community. So, and Lori, you mentioned, you know, helping each other and coming together to talk about it. And because everyone always says we're all in it together, it's one of those same things that I'm sure we all get a penny for every time someone has said that, but it's oversaid because there's truth to it. If we help each other from those best practices, the industry rises. So we all rise. And if that's the case, then everything that someone is doing that can help another, it's a domino effect, and it becomes a big snowball of help and success. And that's truly what we're all here for, be it partners, vendors, the businesses that we help, is to succeed together. So I love what you said, you know, even, you know, working with competitors or whomever, you can work together friendly. I saw someone post when you had Dan earlier about the wine tasting. They said, oh, one of our clients are a wine company, we can band together. And I think that banding together with communities, with other types of partners, you're better together, and it's a bigger influence, which I think is powerful.
I think so too. Like today, I had a guy that I've been working with, Mark, for the last year. We've been working together with each other's businesses, and he came over today and we talked about how he has stuff organized in his car and what are some of the tools that he has, and to give other people ideas. And my biggest takeaway was, why isn't Mark helping me organize my car the way that his is organized? But
right. One of the things on personal brand that you mentioned before, I just want to double down on for one quick second, was that every individual has a brand of their own. The goal is typically individuals align themselves, just like you do with your group of friends. You align yourself with a group of friends that you want to belong to. You align yourself with a company that you want to also belong to, but you're still an individual inside of it, right? So when you build out that personal brand, I think many times, especially in our space, and you know, Lori, with the MSPs that you do work with, many times people are scared to even understand what that brand is or understand what that value is, and then how to go to market with it. So I think thinking about, you know, the things that you're passionate about as an individual and how you can bring that value forward using some of these tools, video, communities, you know, sharing of resources, is really neat. is really neat. How if one of the MSPs watching right now are not in your community and are interested because they're thinking this sounds awesome, I know that the contact link is out in the chat, right, Matt? But anything else you want to share with them to get involved?
Sure. Well, one, the best way to reach me is to go to Lori, Lori, 360.com, and you can connect with me on any of my social media. And that's a perfect way. You can send me a text, an email, or connect. But talking about connecting and personal brand, one thing to really hone in for the other people in the industry is you want to make it easy for people to find you and to connect with you, especially if you're posting and sharing information online, whether for your business or personal. There are so many times when I want to go and respond to someone or send them a message or see where they live. I can't. The information's not there. They have it hidden, or it's private, or they don't even have the name of their business listed on their social media profile. Make it easy so people can find you. If I can't find you, your clients, your potential clients can't find you.
100%. Go ahead,
and I just love that, Lori360.com, right?
Lori360.
Yeah, so because you people in these sessions have mentioned like a book, and then there's like 6 times, 7 times somebody's like, can you say that book again? Because they just don't remember. But I mean, that's such an easy way to just say it during, especially in a virtual environment. And that's something I think everybody has to shift their mindset, that you're not handing somebody a form anymore, or whatever it is that you were doing in person. You have to have an easy way for them to get in contact with you.
Yeah. So actually, if you go to Lori360.com, you can go to my contact information, and you can send me a text, or you can send me an email.
That's cool. Yeah.
I love that.
I love what I really like about that is right now it's hard with so many people being remote and working. So it's hard. If I wanted to send you something, you're trying to ask people what their home address is, or the different things. So having a site like that allows you to be so easily connectable, and when you're doing these different events, it's just a very, very easy way. No matter if it's virtual or you're at an event live, it's a great way just to have your brand, whereas it's a very simple way for people to get a hold of you.
It's a nice landing page if you want to think about it in those terms.
Yes, yeah. It's your net. That's how everyone can go to the mothership. I say a lot. The mothership to go see all of the pieces. And one of the things you mentioned, Lori, that I want to share back with everyone again is, just because you might not enjoy building out a website, just because you might not enjoy adding another landing page for something, or putting out information, or having a social page on LinkedIn or Facebook, you might not love that. But back to what Lori was saying, someone might be looking for you. So you have to think about it a little bit differently. You have to reverse the mindset. It's not about whether you like LinkedIn. It's about who likes LinkedIn that you might want as a client. So it's a totally different view of whether or not we like these tools. It's about other people in the masses that love these tools and use them to find the things that you're talking about, Lori. And if you're not there to be found, you missed an opportunity. And they found someone else, not you. So I think that's I love that you mentioned that. It's very important.
Yeah, you need to be there and show up and consistently post in order to maintain, people knowing who you are and what you do, and partnering with people, and just what everyone has been talking about, partnering and teaming up with another business or another entity and sharing, because then you're reaching even more people. And if you're not doing that, you need to start doing that so that you can reach more people.
And Andrea, we didn't set this up like purposely, because we didn't know that everybody was going to talk about LinkedIn this entire week, which has really become a theme. And even, God, just listening to Jamie earlier, I mean, just the power of LinkedIn, I mean, you think you know it, and then you don't. And, tomorrow, it just so happens that we have more experts on LinkedIn, which is just perfect to kind of round out the week, right? I mean, it's the 2 women, we call them the LinkedIn ladies. They're fantastic, Sally Jo Lamont and Bryn Tillman. And it's just, I think it rounds out everything that everybody's been talking about, and you're going to just walk away with tip after tip of how to properly utilize LinkedIn. So it's really great to have that. And then a just star-studded people CMO panel.
It is going to be fun. So we'll and then what we will do for everyone who's on too, we'll round out the week. So we're going to be talking about some really neat things together and answering some unanswered questions and digging into also some of the things that you're even tagging into right now, Lori, which is great. And so we'll kind of round that out. And then the other thing, I love that you, Lori, have gotten your community involved in this event too. And we love that you being a community sponsor has been awesome. One of the other things too, we have the quarantine kids. I know you saw the quarantine kids. I've been sharing a couple things. I'll share some more tomorrow, but the quarantine kids are going to be our happy hour, our happy hour entertainment. So that will be on, and it's family friendly, as we say. So you can gather up anyone who's quarantining with you and enjoy some music and a little happy hour celebration.
Very fun.
It will be a great time. Well, thank you, Lori, so much for jumping in. And Dan, obviously, thank you for your brilliance as well. It was great. And thank you to, the hundreds of MSPs who tuned in today. We are just privileged to bring you any of this information. And so we will see you tomorrow for the last day of Pivot to Grow. And we'll see you tomorrow at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Bye, everyone.
Bye. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.